podcast today. And we are here to help, a few people along the road, interviewing interesting people doing interesting things. And I'm just honored and humbled to have some amazing people on the show. And Joshua, today you become a pirate. So we're wrapping up the year. Joshua is a pirate today, and we're going to bring him in and interview him.
Hey, I've got
Joshua, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. I was going to say I've got 4 kids, so I think I'm interrogated every day.
Why, Dad? Why?
Exactly. Or why, sweetheart? Why did you just do that?
Yeah. Exactly. So, let's back up to the beginning. We started, we've had a conversation or two,
Yeah.
and I know that we're connected through mutual friends on LinkedIn, and some of these circles of friends, you have circles of circles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we're both in the coaching, mentoring, consulting kind of role. And sometimes we get wrapped up in this idea that, we need to chase certain things. And I think as we mature and grow older, we understand and appreciate the need to work on something that brings us a little joy. Mm-hmm. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about coming back to where you landed here today. And what was your journey that allowed you to be here, right now, today?
All right. So how far back you want to go?
Let's just go back to the creative part where you took a left turn somewhere and you decided to do this.
Well, I think I think most people who get to the stage that we're in can now look back and see that all those people that said, this is going to happen if you do this. At some point, you're going to treasure this more than that. It's that age-old conversation you start having with yourself. And I think everybody has at one point when they get older that, holy crap, all those things my parents taught me, all those things that the older mentors in my life said would happen actually happened. So by the way, again, it's almost sounds cliche these days, right? That if you're watching this and you're under 40,
yeah,
all of those things, well, not all of them, a lot of those things that you have been told will come true. So be ready for it. But really, my switch came probably, it wasn't even 10 years ago. It was more 5 or 6 years ago. And it really came through some of the biggest failures in my life.
Which
and
usually
again,
the biggest lessons are a result of the biggest failures.
Absolutely. I had a pretty strong insurance agency at one point in Central Texas, and watching that thing decline due to poor judgment and poor hires and poor decisions that I had made, watching personal relationships start to fall apart because of ego, because of me trying to silo business and personal from each other and keep them separate. Watching, my older kids now, who are the older 2 are 15 and 13, watching them be absolutely excited when I was available, like it was something that rarely happened.
Oh man, I can relate to that.
Absolutely. And there's this time in my life where I said, I've got to get my shit together. Excuse my language.
Yeah, no worries.
I've got to get my stuff together here.
Yeah.
And so really there was a switch at that point. And what I started to do was, I think I'd always, like most people, we live, and I talk about this a lot, most of us in society today, I don't care where you live and what country you're in, we have this fast food mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And, like fast food, I drive up and I order. And if the person doesn't immediately answer and ask me what I want, I'm irritated. Like immediately, right? And if they mess up along the way as they're repeating my order back to me, I get upset. Mm. And if it takes me more than like a minute and a half to get up to the window, I'm really irritated. And then if you get up to the window and they fumble with the change, and they get the order wrong, or it takes them 2 or 3 minutes to get everything out to you. As a society, I am, and I know that we as a society, we get irritated.
Yeah.
And I
Instant
apologize.
gratification.
Instant gratification, fast food. And I apologize. This is just me trying to relate this, guys. So all of my friends that are fitness trainers, I promise I'm not doing fast food all the time anymore. But I think we live in this fast food society where we expect it.
Well, it's just like Amazon. It's like, what do you mean you can't deliver today?
Absolutely. And by the way, the crazy thing about Amazon is we pay a little bit more to get them to deliver it when I could drive 10 minutes to the Target down the street and pick up the same thing probably for cheaper, and I'd have it right there.
Yeah.
But we have that.
But it's the mindset you're talking about.
It absolutely is. And so instead, I know this now in business and in life, that the joy and the true, deep, meaningful success comes from the 5-course meal.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from the fast food. You know, if you've been involved in one of those big time, really heavy, long-term dinners, it's not even the food that makes them exciting. It's not even the food that makes it a great experience. It's the conversation and the relationship building in between while you're waiting, right? While you're waiting for the food to get out, you're able to have, first course, and then you talk and you get to know each other, and it happens, and you wait, and they fill your water or your wine back up, and you talk and you get to know each other, and finally the next course comes out, and you look up and you've been eating for 2 hours.
Yeah. Time passes by. You don't even think about your clock. You don't even think about what's going on.
And so to me, that's how I was doing business that way. I was doing life that way with my kids and my wife and my family.
You were in the fast food range.
Yes. And I was expecting immediate results on every front when I needed them to happen. And if it wasn't that way, it was not a success.
Yeah.
And I think I realized, right, that the minute I put that aside and realized, okay, success is not going to come in these really crappy bites of some disgusting, greasy fast food hamburger. Mm-hmm. It's going to come from me waiting and letting things marinate and understanding my surroundings and getting to know the people who were waiting there with me.
Yeah.
Once I started doing that, success came at a pace that was so rapid that it was hard to fathom. And then it's funny what happens with success that way. Then you've got to figure out what successes to keep doing. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, where's my success? It's, oh my gosh, okay, I've got to choose something here.
Yeah.
And that's a much more advantageous place to be. I don't know about you, but I'd rather be there than somewhere else.
Well, you bring up a couple of good points, and I want to break it out a little bit. And because it's really important for us to understand that when you allow things to happen at their own pace, and you're not always shoving and pushing and moving things around, mm-hmm. that it actually has a tendency to the things that you are looking for, the things that you need at that moment, usually mm-hmm. gravitate your way.
Right.
And they show up in your life because they're needed at that point. Sometimes that experience isn't necessarily the most comfortable experience, but the experience is the lesson in what we can do with what we need to do in the future. and like you said, that epiphany that, you weren't spending time with your kid, your family, you were agitated, you were aggravated, everything that was not flowing in your life. And I think that that's really important because, sometimes we have to go through that pain in order to realize what the opposite is and what the feeling is necessary. So now that you've gone through that process and that, that transformation, mm-hmm. And you're coaching and you're consulting and you're mentoring people, mm-hmm. you come from a place of experience. You've already seen that. So when you can see the triggers in others, mm-hmm. and so you have an opportunity to actually convert them off the path, so to speak, and then impart some wisdom as they're moving along, because there are a lot of people, they don't even realize they're in it because they're too deep in the moment.
Well, and the one thing that this fast food way of thinking does, one of the things that it does, right, is it creates the Chicken Little effect. That
Yeah.
when everything has to be now, when you expect, again, people are goal setting right now, right, for 2020, and they're going to goal set for 2020, and these goals have to happen this year. And if it doesn't happen, it was not a success. And when you live life that way, when you don't look at it from the long game,
Mm-hmm.
everyone in your life, they become jaded at the things that you say.
Yeah.
You come home and you expect your kid who is flunking algebra to, over the next 6 weeks, be making an A. And when he or she takes that F to a C, you're not celebrating the fact that over a short amount of time, they have really come a long way.
Yeah.
You're upset because they didn't achieve this amount of success that was probably not ever going to happen.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, then what happens is people become jaded with your viewpoints, but then they just stop listening.
Yeah.
And they stop taking you seriously. And then they look at your results, by the way, because not only are other people failing what you believe they should be doing, but you're failing what you believe you should be doing. So now people look at you and go, well, what the hell are you talking about? You don't achieve all that stuff. And by the way, you're thinking that about yourself. So yeah, it's a big circle.
It's a big circle. And thinking
it does allow us. It does allow us to have. It allows us to have that mindset of, okay, now I can see those triggers. And you come to me and we're having a coaching session today and you're in a really bad mood. I can probably know why. You're probably in a really bad mood today because now I've gotten to know about you and your personal life. You probably had an unrealistic expectation somewhere at home. You and your wife, or you and your spouse, or you and your kids had it out this morning, and business has blended with life. So now the day is going to suck.
Yeah.
And we can see these things better now that we go through those things.
Well, when you wake up with gratitude and have a little joy in your life, it makes life so much easier. And, I just want to shout out to a few people that are in the room here.
Yeah.
Joshua, Sherry Lolly, Angie, Leah, Arcot, Kenyatta says hello. And Vicky O'Neill, thank you for being here. David. There's
my man, David.
Yeah, impression brother, Joshua. Yeah. So the whole point of being so impatient, being so immediate and instant gratification is not serving us well. It's not really serving us. Could you imagine, Joshua, if you took someone from 1890 and dropped them in today's arena, how much difference there would be between life then and life is now? And I'm not saying it's not a judgment. It's not good or bad. It's just how fast paced we are as a result of the benefits of technology, everything that we have, that we can automation, systems, and everything else. So, we all have to build systems in our lives just to survive a lot of times. So, some of the systems that I've developed for, things I'm doing work for me. And I know that as a coach and a consultant, you probably have some systems that you use as well. And so how do you react or respond or recommend people deal with their systems and their mindset? And how do you get them from transitioning from, damn, I got to do it now. If I don't, I'm not a success, to, if I can help more people and generate a little bit of joy and gratitude in my day, what does that look like? I mean, what's the transition? What's the arc of the story that brings people to a new understanding of where they need to go?
One of the, and you already know this, there's a really negative connotation these days, I think, with people, with coaches. There are so many. I mean, think about how many coaches there are on LinkedIn. People tend to be very skeptical. And one of the reasons I believe that people are skeptical of that is the system mentality. And by the way, systems are vital. You have to have a system. It's one of the reasons that, by the way, starting something new is so difficult, because you're having to create a system for yourself.
Yeah.
And what you're probably trying to do is take a system from someone else who's been successful. That's kind of what we do, right? We see someone, we're told, go find that person that's been successful doing what you want to do, talk to them about how they were successful, and then take what they've done and implement it yourself. And it doesn't work because
it's not your system.
Exactly. And because what makes you successful, Russ, may not, it may make me as unsuccessful as anybody in the room.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work that way. And so the goal, and it's what I've created, the goal is to create this living, breathing system that is personally tailored to the individual that's in front of you. And that takes a non-fast food mentality, by the way. You can't say over the next 3 weeks, you are going to go from point A to point B. That's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible for me to say it. Doesn't mean it's impossible for you to do it. It's impossible for me to say it because, one, you've got to figure out from a personal side, what is it that motivates and drives you and keeps you going? And then two, you actually have to do it. And I can't force anything. One of the things that I've done, through that time when I really struggled and then lights started going off in my head, I put together unknowingly to me, the system that I use now, which I call Equational Success. And really what I did was I sat down and decided, okay, these things aren't working. Why aren't they working?
Yeah.
And then I started looking at it and thinking about the people that these other systems were successful for. If you walk through like a John Maxwell trainings, John Maxwell's really good. A lot of the stuff that Maxwell teaches, it doesn't work for everybody. And he'll even say that, right? Those coaches will say it.
Not every system is designed for every person.
Well, I mean, think about it. If the system is set up for someone who's a very logical thinker, very much about statistics, very much about metrics, someone like me is going to struggle. Yeah. I don't know. I can't even spell brevity. Right? And so if you're going to tell me, and you know, I can do it because I'm a professional and I'll force myself to do it. But if you tell me I've got to make 500 phone calls a week, and get 200 discussions that'll equal the, I can do it, but I'm going to be terrible at it. Yeah. And so anyway, I realized the missing component in most of these systems was taking time at the beginning to mesh goals with personal. Yeah. And what I mean by that is we all have these personal truths. Mm-hmm. And you hear people, I was watching, oh my gosh, don't throw eggs at me for saying this, but I was watching this Dr. Phil like 8 years ago. Uh-huh. Oh my gosh. And I can't talk like him. He kind of talks like Forrest Gump, doesn't he? Jenny, I know what love is.
You got a box of chocolates?
Oh, I love you. I love Forrest Gump, by the way.
Yeah.
No,
my favorite shows.
But what he did was he talked about a personal truth. Uh-huh. And it was one thing that kind of drove you and motivated you. But what I learned was we all have countless personal truths, different things that make us, that push us, that motivate us, that scare us, that make us love, that make us hate. And before we can do anything with our goals, before we can do anything with the activity that is required to be successful, we have to know how to institute those things. And that's based upon our own selves. So knowing your personal truth, knowing what you're really terrible at, knowing what motivates you, not only what motivates you, but what is it that's from your past that makes that one thing motivate you now? What are the things that happened to you back in the day? And so you almost become an unlicensed psychotherapist, right? Because I would be trying to pull out of you, Russ, what is it that's happened over the last decade, 2 decades, that have made you act this way in that business situation?
Well, we are the product of our experience.
Absolutely.
Good, bad, or indifferent. We are the product of our experience, and our triggers and our emotions are a direct result of our experience. And so, you know, if I have a bad experience in something that you maybe have a good experience about, and we're thinking from a different perspective on the outcome of each one of those experiences. And so as a coach or a consultant, And here's the thing, you said that, there's a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth about coaches, and it's like, okay, fair, that's fair. However, the other side of the equation is every athlete, every person that's ever excelled past average has a coach or a consultant or somebody that can help them see around the corner.
100%.
Right? And it can be some people, like I was listening to somebody the other day. It's like, I have a board of directors. Not everybody knows they're on my board of directors. And I have people that I ask questions for because they have a specific outcome in their life that I need help with. And I think that it's a healthier way of looking at it. And I know that the equational success formula that you use, you have some metrics that go into that, and I want to dive a little deeper into that before we leave.
Sure.
And it's as a result of experience that you came to understand how these things fit together, right? Because go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing too, though. So experience creates it, but I think also it's the acknowledgement of where we are on our career path that is maybe sometimes more important than even experience, because you can take someone who is 24, they need a coach just like the 42 or 43-year-old needs it. Theirs is different, right? Because theirs is going to be changing. Their mentality is going to be changing at a much more rapid pace because they're experiencing it in live time, right? They're right now. And so what you have, right, is if you don't have that coach that's able to sit there and walk them through what's happening now, if they sit with you and I, for instance, in how I do things, we would be talking about what happened 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. For someone who's 24 or 25, it works really well. You just have to say, what's happening today?
Yeah.
What is it that's molding your personality today? What happened last week?
Yeah.
What happened 2 weeks ago? So it's a shorter amount of time, and it really requires, you just said it, and it's very accurate. It requires someone, a coach, who can bring it all together and consistently have you looking at those things that move you and motivate you and make you make the decisions that you have. And you're absolutely right. I'm a huge NFL fan, football. I'm also a huge Dallas Cowboy fan. I'm sorry, but we've been miserable for 26 years. And if you look at like the Dallas Cowboys this year, all the talent they had, it really, there's probably not another team in the league that wouldn't take most of the starters on the Cowboys. Yet they finished 8-8. They were an average team, and it's all about the coaching at the top, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think you even have to necessarily be a 20-year veteran when it comes to business to need that coaching and to be able to move forward. Even that 24, 25-year-old, it's just, you have to have someone who's willing to look at that personal side.
Well, there's two things that I think are really important too, Joshua, is one, looking at the problem with a fresh set of eyes. Because sometimes we get so deep into it that we don't see the real problem. We see symptoms of the problem. The other part that I think is really key is having a different understanding and a different set of circumstances. And I think that's really important for everybody to understand is a coach is nothing more than a fresh perspective sometimes. And then with the ability and the opportunity to call you out on your bullshit.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just baggage that we have that we need to realize and understand and accept and own. It's like, hey, I had this mindset because of my experience, and that mindset needs to be modified a little bit. So
yeah.
But
absolutely.
So talk a little bit, wrap us up with the equational success formula and how you bring that together for people so we can really help them.
Yeah, there's really, I mean, in equational success formula, there's really 5 different components. Hold on. I showed you 4. But
5.
The first one being personal truth that we just talked about.
Uh-huh.
You've got to be able to dig deep and understand why it is you are who you are, why it is you act the way you act, why it is you have the loves and the preferences that you have now. And that's really an ongoing process, by the way, forever. You're
Yeah.
always dealing with those. You're always talking about them. You're always digging into them because, especially as you get older, and you know this, the amount of experiences we have that we don't think about that
Yeah.
make us who we are. The big events are easy to point out. It's those little events that I used to call it that need behind the need in sales, right? What is it they need, but why do they really need it? In
Yeah.
ours, it's what was the experience, but what was the experience right before or right after that had just as much impact? And so you have personal truths. The second thing in the system is understanding what are the universal truths that you, everyone in your company, all of your competitors, all the people in your area all face.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to understand if you're going to be successful in business. One, you've got to understand what sets you apart from a personal side, but what is it that brings everyone together? What is it that puts you on even footing with your competition, with other people in your company? You've got to know those things as a basis for how to determine how well you're doing. After that, there's a lot of goal setting, right? Because once you know your personal and your universal truths, you've got to be able to mesh your personal and universal with the goals that you're setting and understand, one, are they achievable? Two, if they're achievable, how quickly do you need to be acting on them? Are they 5-course meal kind of long-term goals, or are they quick, short victories, the what do they call it, low-hanging fruit kinds of goals? So you've got to implement a goal-setting portion. After that, really, what you have is success inhibitors. What are the success inhibitors in your life? And success inhibitors are interesting because people tend to think, right, that, okay, I'm going to sit down and make a list of things that I'm not good at.
Yeah.
And this year, my goal is if I have 10 things that I think I'm really terrible, I just suck at these things. Mm-hmm. My goal this year is to make 3 of them I want to be really good at those things. And what it does is, for the most part, I'm not going to use a blanket statement because it can work for some people, but it sets us up for failure. I'll give you an example. I have quite a few success inhibitors. I've got an addictive personality. I've got alcoholism all throughout my family. I don't drink. I'll have a glass of wine every now and then with my wife. Every once in a while I'll go out and have a beer, but I don't drink. Yeah. That is a success inhibitor. It would limit my success both personally and business wise. I don't try to figure out how to be better at that. Yeah. I avoid the hell out of it. Right. Yeah. I also, I am not an introvert. I'm not an extrovert. Sorry. I'm not. Yeah. I am what they call an ambivert. So I'm a natural introvert who has, over the course of 30 years, figured out how to be more of an extrovert in person. It allowed me to sing and do stage stuff when I was younger. Yeah. It allows me to get up in front of groups now and talk. It allows me to do this. I've had to figure out what are those things that I need to stay away from in order to be successful doing that in front of people. And so for me, we have people list out, and it's an ongoing list. What are the things that will keep you from being successful? Yeah. And do you need to completely avoid it, or do you need to delegate it?
Yeah. If you can document it, you can delegate it. So
and then here's the deal, though, right? You have to figure out also what are the things that are delegate worthy, and then what are the things that you just need to get the hell out.
Yeah.
Right.
Just avoid them altogether.
I don't want you working on this. This is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Get it out. And then the last part of this, to wrap it up, is community.
Yeah.
One of my really good friends, Dale Dupree, here on LinkedIn, owner and co-founder founder of the Sales Rebellion, talks about it a lot, and I do too. The fact that so many business people forget to engage and enrich the community that they're going to need to make their own business successful.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to ask for something when you don't need
it. and I'll say this: think about it. We go to networking meetings all the time in our communities. We start businesses in our communities. And as we're starting these businesses, we think, okay, what is it that I need to do to be successful? How do I get the community in here? I'm going to go do marketing. I'm going to go do community research to figure out who I need to send stuff to. I need to open up and have the best prices and the best products and all the, yet we forget that we need that community to walk through the door or to give us a call in order to be successful. The best way to do that is the best way it's always been, which is to create relationships within the community.
Yeah.
So, one of the things we talk about with my people is, instead of going and by the way, sign up for the Chamber of Commerce. I'm a member of our Chamber of Commerce here, and it's amazing. But also go out to community-based enrichment groups. What are the groups out there that enrich the community, that serve the community, that give back to the community? Once you do that, one, you have a different sense of relationship when it comes to the other people in that community. Two, it's good for your soul to give back.
Yeah.
You feel better, you feel alive, you feel on top of the world, you're helping other people. And then lastly, maybe a little selfishly, once you do that, people want to give back to you. It's amazing what happens to your business.
Yeah.
And so when you put all those together, that's this equational success formula. And I love it. And I love it because I did it. And I didn't realize that I was putting it together when I did.
Yeah.
But now that I have and I've tweaked it, I think it gives my clients at least the best ability to come out and be really rock star, awesome business people who give back and who love and who understand their own growth points and understand their own weaknesses. And they understand that business is personal.
Yeah, business is personal. And you said it best when you talked about the relationship you have with the community, because wherever your community happens to be, and this is what LinkedIn is all about, is we can meet people around the world. We met on LinkedIn. We built a relationship. We built a communication on LinkedIn. And I'm sure that if I were anywhere near Round Rock and I said, hey, Joshua, let's grab some coffee, there would probably be a conversation and an opportunity to connect in real life. And the journey from I don't know you to, let's go have coffee would be a shorter journey because we've already started the conversation. And so we all have to understand what the journey is for our community and how that interaction needs to develop and mature in order for us to gain trust and knowledge and be, the authority in the market or even just a resource. I may not be someone that can provide you help. However, I may know a few people that can provide you help. And if you help people and you're known for helping people, then it's strange how that works. It's like you recognize and realize that you can provide value even though you may not provide a service.
Well, and what you just said there really strikes me because it's so true. When business is personal, you don't have to put success and help in different silos.
No.
Right. And I think so many people in the business world today, and these are excuses, by the way. They're not reasons, they're excuses. I don't have time to do it because I have so much to do in business and I have to do all this. And again, it goes back to the fast food mentality of believing that success is going to come when I do X, Y, Z in business today. And you're leaving out the personal relational side of what it is we do. I learned through this process that success comes, look, if I sit down again and just do metrics, there will be a level of success. There will be a level of success. But meaningful, deep success won't come unless I have the relational aspect of this nailed down. And if I'm holed up in a little office with no windows, with no outside communication to anyone in the community, anyone in the family, how am I supposed to enjoy any of it?
Yeah.
And so I've learned the hard way that, one, success will come no matter what I do if I work my ass off. But two, real meaningful, deep success that I want to share with other people won't come if I'm not doing that. And two, I also know that I don't have to silo it off.
Yeah.
That it's not imperative for me to keep that out, that it all winds and ends up together. So yes, you have to build it in. That's why I built it into my process, that if you're not building it in, what are you doing this for?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Well, every success comes at a price, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's make sure that the price we're paying is not the joy that we find in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a great wrap up too, though, by the way, with why you need a process.
Yeah. It's like,
I mean,
if you can't measure, if you don't have anything to measure it through, how can you improve it, right?
yes.
But the emotional side, the joy and the gratitude that we have, spending time with our kids and our family and our friends, people around us that we care about, that's a form of success as well. It's like, okay, if I can take the time out for a 5-course meal versus dropping by, the drive-in window.
Yeah.
To me, that's a measure of success as well. So
and again, it's all about, at that point, it's all about priorities and how do you set priorities, right? I was talking to someone the other day about, and I'm not a LinkedIn expert by any means, not like a lot of people, but the idea was I don't have time to do this. And I thought it was a really interesting perspective, because I think it relates to our businesses as a whole. And they said, I don't have time to sit there and engage with other people on LinkedIn or post content or anything like that. And I said, well, the thing is, when you say you don't have time, why? Well, my day is so jam-packed with business and meetings. And I said, so if your wife calls or your kids call or your best friend from college all of a sudden out of the blue calls, are you ignoring them? Well, no, I'm going to talk to them. I said, it's because they're priority.
Yeah.
And you have time for priorities. So business owners that are watching, by the way, if you're a business owner and you're watching, you have time for the community. You have time for relationships. You're just not prioritizing them.
Well, I think the perception is skewed, because you can build relationships and community online.
Yes.
Almost as easy as it is to go out, drive across town, sit in traffic, watch the taillights of 10 miles.
Mm-hmm.
You're in Austin, you know what the traffic's like. I was in Houston, Seattle, all these places have traffic. So there's a cost associated with that.
Yep.
And if you're looking at the cost of gaining a relationship online at your desk in between business calls or meetings or events, then you're missing the point, because there's a huge opportunity. And I think it's easier to scale your business with that mindset than it is to say, okay, I got to drive. Because I go to a LinkedIn local and it takes me an hour to get there sometimes. Yeah. And it's like, there's a cost associated with that.
There is.
So, Joshua, this has been a tremendous value and a benefit. And I hope there's some value that we can share with the world and people listening. We got quite a few people on here now. And I just want to thank you all, Vicky, Kenyatta, Juan, Arcot, Leah, Angie, Sherry, Rahina, not sure, but these are things that we all have to live through. We all have to strive to improve our lives and make adjustments along the way. And I think that, I appreciate all the gratitude in the world for our relationship and our community, and being able to meet and connect like this and help others along their journey. Hopefully something landed. I love the Equational Success formula and what you're doing with that, and bringing people out and helping more people in the future. So 2020 is a big year for us. I'm sure that we're going to continue to have these conversations back and forth. And I like Austin, so if I'm up that way, I'm gonna drag a couple of you guys out from behind the desk.
You need to make sure. So yes, you're going to come. We'll get Doug Thompson.
Yes.
We'll get Stephen English. We'll get a couple of these other guys up. Matt. We're going to get a couple of these other guys out here, and we'll all go get some barbecue. And I'll leave everybody with this. I'll say, what we're doing here, Russ,
Yeah.
for everybody watching, it doesn't take much effort to do this.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. And it adds so much value for as much as maybe people might get out of watching us and listening to us. You and I will both get off of here and it will enrich our lives.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
again, business is personal.
Mhm.
And if you don't work to make business personal, business is going to, in 15, 20 years, you're going to look back and it's going to be meaningless. And so if you're watching this, find time to do stuff like this, whether it's a podcast or on the phone or in person, whatever it is, through a DM on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Figure out how to communicate and connect with other people. And business is a lot more fun. I'll promise you that.
Business is a lot more fun when you can do it with friends.
Absolutely.
And every bit of my business right now I have is a direct result of a relationship I've built. So that speaks volumes to me, and the realization that we can go out, create relationships. And I'm an ambivert just like you. So driving across town and jump into a crowd of people is not my idea of the best thing to do in the world.
if people saw what I do right before I get on stage and speak or talk to people, I'm slapping myself in the face and drinking a ton of coffee and going, I mean, it would be a nice little comedy routine. So,
well, it's funny too, because you're a musician,
mm-hmm.
you're a performer. I grew up performing, so that's a different place, right? You're not in the crowd. You're not meeting and greeting and having to have multiple conversations all at once. It's a different mentality. So it's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, when you're on stage, you can look out. You don't see anybody. All you see is the light in your eyes. You don't have to worry about it, right? Exactly. It's a lot different. So,
yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
Wish you the very best in your day, and hopefully the cedar won't kill you too bad. So,
well, I hope the box of Kleenex lasts the rest of the day. We'll see.
Joshua, thank you so much. Appreciate
you, buddy.
Have a fabulous day, and everyone listening, all the gratitude in the world. And kindness is cool. Mm-hmm. Smiles are free, and you enjoy the day.
Arr.
Arr.